everybody, welcome back to COVID-19, the opportunities you didn't think of. I am your host, Casey Wallace, and today's interview, we're having lots of fun with some of the glitches, which really just tells us that the energy is very high. We can thank our guest, Dru Grossman, for that. He is an incredible powerhouse energy source for everyone out there searching for answers and expandability along their path. We know that all of you watching these programs are either having a little bit of your awakening happen right now, perhaps you're well on your way on your path. In either case, Dru can assist you in seeing and perceiving some of the wisdoms coming through, some of the messages, some of the inspirations. He has gifted himself in the category of alchemism, empathic abilities, visionary insight. He's an extraordinary speaker and presenter worldwide, and we really wanted to get him on this platform and present him to you and feel embraced in this energy of possibility that he's going to provide for you and give all of us his take on some of the extraordinary things that are going on and taking place right now. Sit back and relax. You can close your eyes if you'd like and just listen to the beautiful audio that's going to come through for you. Put a big smile on your face, because we are here to assist you in knowing that you are the all. Thank you, Dru, so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Casey. It's great to be here, and I want to also thank your network as well for putting me in this position to assist your followers and bring more light into the world. So my opinion and my entire stance, I've tapped into this many times already. The greatest thing that we have right now is this one opportunity where the whole world is placed on pause. And it's not so much that the whole world is placed on pause, but it's actually that your own body and your own soul kind of can expand during this time. So there is no such thing as, FOMO, as like the millennials would say, fear of missing out. Nothing's happening. There's no sports to watch at night. There's no, bar to go to on Saturday. There's no dinner reservations to make. Everything is occurring within yourself, and it's a time of self-reflection. So I would encourage all of your viewers, all of your listeners to first take a moment and figure out what it is that they've been yearning for. What have they been searching for within themselves? What has been calling out to them over the past months, years, even decades, that they know in their soul that they're ready to accomplish and is in their path. So taking this time now for themselves, because like I said, there's nothing going on outside. There's never anything going on outside of you anyway, as you and I both know. However, especially during this time, it's almost like a leveling up event. And so it can be either that you choose to level up or you choose to stay the same, but this is a once in a lifetime event. I would really encourage all of your listeners to go deep inside themselves to see whether what they're experiencing now is a calling to do something greater.
We've been having some really fantastic conversation. We were talking about, events. From civilizations to civilizations, there are recorded historical events in different directions. Some things are, catastrophes, seemingly catastrophes in some sort. Some are these, breakaway. We talk about the Roman Empire. We talk about Atlantis. We talk about, some of these crazy, crazy things. Of course, anybody out there who follows or has followed in their life some type of text, from a book, okay? They all write their stories, and the phenomenons. And I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and I'm like, this could be one of those times, right? Like this huge galactic shift of possibility. We could incarnate again, perhaps, and be like, I think I was around at that time. Like for those of us who are like, I think I was around during Atlantis, we maybe come back and go, I think I was around in 2020, when this thing, took place. It is a really interesting energy. And the other thing we've been talking about is people's either reaction or creation during this time is a very clear sign where they are on their conscious journey. That's a great thing. If everybody, even if they're looking at themselves and going, you know, I'm really in fear and I'm really in panic, I really have a lot of work to do. And we're like, that's okay. At least you've gotten that message. Let's get you moving. For the people who are relatively calm and seeing the bigger, broader picture, like yourself, Dru, it's like, this is awesome. This is like a catapult for all of us. What are some of the things that people can be doing internally, Dru, for themselves to get into that balance and that alignment force that's taking place here so we can ride on that vehicle, you know, with great balance for ourselves?
That's a great question. So what I teach is mind, body, spirit. So you have three brains, we all do, the mind, the body, the spirit, and each of them controls a specific part of the entire you, the entire whole. And the goal is to actually drop down from the mind through the body and into the spirit, which is the feelings. So the mind controls thoughts, the body controls movement, and like I said, the soul is connected to the all-knowing source, which is feelings, and those are the things that are actually the truest. Your senses are using your mind, so you have five basically things that, you know, waves will hit, you'll interpret them, and then based upon your prior experience with something similar, you'll place some type of interpretation, like I said, on it, which is muddy. It's not really all-knowing. However, when feelings come through the soul, it's pure. It's never been touched before, and it's internal always. And so what I do with my clients is I start with the mind. And I want to go back to one thing really quickly, just because it's on my mind. You said that, you know, there's books that could be written, there's things that could happen during this time. And I just want to mention that actually when Newton discovered his law of gravity, his theory of gravity, law of whatever we want to call it was actually during a quarantine as well. And so a lot of amazing discoveries occurred during times of self-reflection and kind of internal dialogue with oneself. And so it'll be interesting to see what types of discoveries and inventions will come out of this, because there's going to be a humongous flip, and we all know that 5G is coming. And at the same time, what types of inventions are people working on in their own homes right now that they have the time, space, and resources, especially with the abundance of money that's now being generated from the outside in, through the government, funding, lending programs, through just payments being pushed back. We've given, the universe has given us the gift of having this time to now work internally on ourselves, but also externally on things that have come from within, which gets me back to the mind, body, soul. And so what happens first is I work with my clients on the mind, knowing that meditation is a gateway drug. That's meditation is the gateway to learning about spirituality, and that's basically the bottom line. You know, for a while, like you had introduced me as a clairvoyant empath. I had no clue what that meant. I've been seeing spirits since I was 6 years old, very, very intuitive my entire life, but I pushed it away for a long time, even to the point where I became really, really, really in the material. And it's not a bad thing or a good thing. There is no bad or good. We also know that. But during a time when I was really, really burnt out, fear started creeping in, and I was very, very kind of out of it. My immune system was down. Fear releases cortisol. Cortisol is a really, really, really highly sought after entity that your body creates that is used by your white blood cells and your immune system. So when you're releasing fear all the time, your cortisol levels are decreased, which means that if you do get sick, you actually have a lowered immune system. And so it's also important during this time to keep your fear quelled. And that's also getting back to meditation and going back to when I was very much in the material. I started using this app called Headspace. I think it's an amazing app to start with. It's a 10-day free trial. I wouldn't encourage any further than 10 days because there's another app called Insight Timer. So kind of the training wheels are on Headspace. They give you cartoons. They give you kind of work throughs. It's 10 minutes for 10 days. Once you get through all 10 minutes, then you can move on to Insight Timer. and start dropping really into your own sense of where you want to be with that. And there's a group I run that's free to join that has all of the different meditations that I personally enjoy. They range from anywhere from 2 minutes up to an hour and a half. Some other things for the mind to keep in mind for your viewers is that words don't really matter. They exist outside. And there's certain exercises that I use with my clients as well, such as I play the word game. So it's kind of hard it's not hard to do right now. I won't manifest that. But basically, if I ask you to think of a word and I tell you a word and tell you not to think of it or imagine it in your third eye, and I say, for instance, cat, you may think of a cat. If I say mountain, you probably think of something green and spiky and see it. Let's say I say bath or coffee or pizza. All of those words have inherent vibrations within them, but those vibrations first hit our senses because it's external, it's me communicating to you. Based upon the way that it hits, it's an automatic thesaurus that we've been taught to interpret through vibration, sight, taste, sound, all 5 senses that hits our mind is automatically interpreted to our bodies and then drops into our soul. So when I say bath, you might feel warm, see bubbles, think of water. When I say pizza, you might salivate, your belly might get a little full. The thing is that words are not real. Words define themselves. And if you take the definition of, let's say, pizza, define that out, and take the definitions of all of those words, define them out, and you go from end to infinity, you'll eventually find that pizza comes into a definition at some point along that string. So if we go back to A equals B equals C, you'll see that pizza defines itself, which is the only rule of definitions. And therefore it actually mixes out that word, it mixes out all words extrapolated out. And then if we extrapolate that from just words existing in a ball of their own to the greater kind of source of words is either sight or sound, we can pull that out to other senses as well, which means that everything basically exists outside of you and it's defined in a way that's not, I'm not saying it's false, but I'm not necessarily saying that it's totally known as to be 100% true. There's some other things in the mind, but getting back into what we can do during this particular quarantine, I would say meditation is a great place to start. Working the mind, seeing the mind's thoughts, becoming the secondary observer to the actual primary thought itself is something that's incredibly important and basically the first step on the path. Depending on where your viewers are, I would highly recommend picking up specific books. Books are a great resource, especially now when there's not much to do but hang around and read if you're not meditating or doing some other things that I'll suggest in a little bit. But some books that I would highly recommend would be The Celestine Prophecy, the entire series. I think that is one of the greatest series ever created. Some people think that it was channeled. I'm speechless over that series. I would say anything by Eckhart Tolle, New Earth, or The Power of Now. Power of Now coincides really nicely with meditation. And journaling, internal dialogue, writing what it is that you feel and how you think. Because when it's in the mind, it's cycling, but when it's on paper, it's out. And you can start placing outside of you, so you start gaining some space in your inside hard drive of your brain, because it's also an operating system.
I want to say something really quickly, Drew, on that recommendation, because one of the things that we've talked to our students about is the difference between a diary and a journal. So a diary is just writing down what you've done, A journal is writing what you feel, what you've been feeling about either what you're doing or what you're feeling in the moment. There's a difference there, because I really want to point that out, because people might miss that. They're like, well, I don't understand why I have to write down what I'm doing. I fed the dog, I watered the plant, you know. You want to, what Dru's talking about is actions of awareness. So awareness is one of the things that human beings have become extremely detached from. In the hyper state of doing, they have become completely detached from their awareness. And so this calm and this still is that opportunity for awareness. And Dru, for some people, that's even scarier than the quarantine, right? I mean, they have run and escaped, and maybe just because they've never been taught the value of awareness, that's your soul, that's your journey, not the hyper, busyness. So that in and by itself might be a little bit scary, but we're going to nurture you through that, right?
100%. And so that awareness comes from the internal versus the external, because there's two worlds. There's two worlds that exist within you, the internal and the external. Getting yourself to become more aware of the internal, you can start placing a barrier between the separate worlds. So if you see something in the external world, like we said, it's not necessarily true, we can start putting that barrier in there, so we can start interpreting whether or not what we're seeing is A, true, is B, a sign, or is C, false, or not necessarily trustable. And so given that, once this barrier starts coming up, we can start seeing angel numbers, we can start picking up on synchronicities, start kind of giggling with the entire universe itself, and happiness and comes through laughter, and when you laugh more, you actually get more. So yeah, that's a great point. And journaling definitely allows you to become that higher self. Dropping from the mind into the soul, let's talk about the body, because the body is kind of this center of locomotion for a lot of people, but there's also a dualistic nature, because we're spiritual beings in a physical realm. All of our body basically has organs that have dualistic functionality as well. And so depending on what it is, the heart is not only useful for pumping blood, but it's also useful for courage, right? If your heart's not in it, you don't have motivation. The liver is for intuition. So if you either are eating the wrong foods, or you're kind of fattening it up, or maybe taking an alcohol, you're depressing your system, but you're also losing your intuition and your ability to tap in. And that's really something that's highly, highly valuable, especially during times like these. If you're sitting around and drinking the entire time through, you're really not tapping into your higher being, and you're depressing your intuitive skills and not being able to work on them fully. At the same time, stretching the actual chakras themselves. So there's different exercises for opening separate chakras depending on what it is. So for instance, your root chakra, if you do squats, it'll strengthen your root chakra and keep you grounded. If you do a lion's pose, which it's hard to show right now, but it's a yoga pose. If your third eye is closed, you can do a lion's pose to open that up. And if you have a heart blockage in your heart chakra, you can bend over, wrap your hands, interlace them behind your back, and then pull up and put your head back, and you'll be able to blow up your heart chakra. And that's 3 out of 7, but there's other exercises and stretches, including at-home yoga, depending on what your yoga of choice is. Exercise in general is incredibly important, as is what you take in. And so this is another point about the body, about what is it that you're taking in right now. I would highly encourage your viewers and listeners to ask themselves what it is that they're purchasing at the stores, because there's no restaurant to go to blame. This is the same thing with getting a personal trainer. A lot of people get personal trainers so that the onus is on the trainer, not themselves. So when you're going to the grocery store, are you purchasing the pre-made fried chicken, or are you buying some organic fruits and vegetables to eat at home? Are you learning how to cook better? Are you placing your emphasis on things that actually are gaining you momentum once we get out of this? Because I'll keep going back to this. This is a gift. This is the biggest gift of the entire of once in a lifetime, and I would say once in a multitude of lifetimes, maybe millennia. This is a turning point for humanity, and it could be a turning point for you and your viewers. I know it's a turning point for myself. And then dropping into the soul, finally, the final piece of this entire puzzle, so that we can start coming from within as opposed to without. The soul is feelings, and so becoming resensitized to those feelings is something that's so important and highly sought after by not only yogis or anyone who is on the spiritual path, but everybody subconsciously. So instead of like, I would encourage your viewers to think, what are they watching right now? Are they watching Netflix? Are they watching violence? Are they watching, things that are placing into them something that's desensitizing them to the actual spiritual feeling of anger, hate, this, that? Or is it something that's encouraging love, games, excitement, happiness, connectedness, right? What is it that you're feeding your soul, and how sensitive are you to it? Can you sit with your feelings, and can you live in them and fully witness them? And when you can do that, then you can start feeling, and that feeling is the intuition. And that's the connected to the all-knowing, the source, however we want to describe it, God. When we start feeling that way, we can start gaining the infinite energy and start channeling it through ourselves up from the soul into the body and out through the mind, which produces itself in many ways through physical activity, through all five senses, through sight, taste, touch, all of that. And then we can start living in a new earth, a new world, and a place that's better for all of us to be in when we get out of here, especially.
It's a massive difference too, Dru. I know that you will agree with this, in our ability to create, creative thought rather than reactiveness, which is living in a previous state or holding on, clinging to a previous state, or the fear of what is to come, rather than creating your experience from the now component, which is where all possibility lives, which is where the extraordinary lives, which is where, all the magic lives. And there's a lot of people out there who believe that they aren't creative. I can remember, I've had conversations with people who are like, I don't have any creativity. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? That's your soul. Your soul actually is the creator of everything, right? And that's who you are. But really, I mean, that's their stance. That's their position. Like you said, they've become so externalized rather than internalized. They don't even know, who they are. This getting to know yourself takes up a lot of time. Everybody's like, I got so much time, and I'm like, not really, not if you're doing all your work. That's being consumed and utilized and expanded and known, and unlike any other time, like you said, the programs like this, we hope, are not just encouraging that, but thank you for all of your dialogue, Dru, thus far, because you're really giving some people some instructional, usable suggestions for them, which is really what people are kind of sitting back and really wanting. It's not so much about holding your hand as kind of just lifting you up, how like somebody might help assist you going from one place to the next. They're helping you cross the river. They're putting their hand out. Here, let me just hold you, not here, let me take you, across the river, is what a lot of what you're talking about sounds and feels like, right, to me.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, if you're thirsty, I can take you to water, but I can't force you to drink. If I can't breathe for anybody, I can only tell them that there's air out there that can breathe. I'm the messenger. I'm not a guru. I just deliver the message. I'm the postman.
And some people are afraid of the postman. Some people wait eagerly by the door because they know they're bringing something, really spectacular. Dru, do you work with clients one-on-one? You have courses, classes, workshops? Tell everybody, what they can do to funnel their way in and make a deeper connection with you.
Yeah, so I do all of that. I work individually with clients, anywhere ranging from, like we're discussing today, spiritual guidance and coaching, up until aura reading, chakra readings, past life regressions, some NLP work, inner child, spiritual godparents, all of that. Workshops I do as well. Right now, of course, they're on hold, so we're waiting to release what the next schedule will be like. And we're going to start doing some tours. I live on the West Coast right now. I'm from the East Coast, from outside Philadelphia. Been up and down the coast over there for a long time. And we're going to start doing some stuff, not just on the West Coast, but going back to the East. We've had a lot of interest out there. I actually started my entire journey out there. And so it'd be nice to give back to those as well. So when all that happens, you can stay tuned to that. I just want to go back to one quick thing about the creativity piece, because I think it's important for your viewers to understand that yes, they are creative, and there are mental blocks associated with what it is that they've been taught over their entire lifetimes and what they've seen and the comparison between others. And that comparison between others actually comes from a comparison between themselves, and that resides in the inner child. And so going back however long, where that base program was implemented, your inner child, for those who don't know, is a series of programs that is installed within you, basically from the time that you're 0 to around 6 years old. And that in that time span, everything that you believe, feel, and run your life on is installed within your child brain. And so one of the things is creativity. And taking some of my clients back through that, we can really get to the root of why they feel certain ways and how they can change and alter it so that when they come back out, they have a different system in place that's rebooted. And the last point before I'll let people know how to get in contact is humans have an inherent piece in their mind and their brain, that's really, really unique to humans and humanity, Homo sapiens, which is the prefrontal cortex. And so the prefrontal cortex is responsible primarily and fully for imagination. And it's a double-edged sword, this imagination game, because on one side, the positive is that you've got all of these amazing things, right? We have all of this. All of this is available because of imagination. We have laws, society, money, government, hierarchies. All of this does not exist in nature. If you go out in nature, you go on a nature walk, it's abundant. There's trees over here, there's trees over here, there's bushes, there's grass, there's birds. There are no borders or territories. It's just abundance, abundance, abundance. If you go in society, because we have this prefrontal cortex, we can imagine certain things, we can build certain things up. So we have this society, which is great, but we also kind of have like this barrier to it as well. And that lack of abundance or lack of abundance mentality comes from this. It's also important that on the flip side, that's the positive. On the negative side of this, having a prefrontal cortex and the ability to imagine imparts within all of humans the ability to live in the past and imagine the future. The problem with living too much in the past is that it creates depression. And the problem with living too much in the future is that it creates anxiety. And so I always ask, this is one of the first questions I ask, whether I'm doing a workshop, whether I'm speaking at an engagement, or I'm working one-on-one. I ask my clients, and I may ask you as well, Casey, when does a child become an adult? Like, at what point do we say this child is now an adult? And in my kind of tapping in and intuition on this question, I've come to the I've come to the kind of solution that a child becomes an adult when they live the majority of their day either in the past or the future and not in the present. Because the only thing that's happening is the present moment. And knowing that is so important because that's where everything happens. The past is something that's only known based upon your limited perception, beliefs, and experience with certain facts and how they felt to you at the time, whether good or bad, which we've already discussed that there is no good or bad, so it's only your interpretation of that. And the future is trying to predict something with limited information that you don't even know, which will never happen because the future never happens. As we said, the present is the only thing that exists. And that's where severe cases of both things happen. So a lot of the times tyranny comes from either a past trauma with something where they tried to break out of the box and they were told they weren't good enough, or they some type of trauma, or the future of trying to predict, like, well, will people like it? As opposed to just channeling that now and allowing it to come through, whether it's through art, through painting, through music. And I've said already, this is the perfect opportunity to do what it is that your soul is calling you to do. Do you want to go paint? Well, go get a paintbrush and paint something. I mean, play the piano, learn something. The amount of information that we have now at our fingertips has never been possible before. And so I would highly encourage anybody to look at YouTube videos for free. Go do what it is that they would want to do at this point. And with that, yeah. So the contact information, you guys can reach me. It's hello, HELLO @drutheguru.com. Social media, Instagram is the best means for me, as I'm kind of on the millennial side. It's @DruTheGuru_. And everything on the website, drutheguru.com. We are updating everything right now with all new COVID stuff. So the site's down at the moment. The website will be up with all new dates, events. Though we're going to give out, I have a free workbook on binaural beats for all of your listeners today. If they send an email to hello, HELLO @drutheguru.com, there'll be a binaural beats workbook, which guides them through alpha, beta, delta, theta, all the different brain waves to guide themselves, especially through creativity. Beta waves are the best. Theta waves are best to fall asleep to, and delta waves kind of will put you in a deep, deep trance. So that's that. What else?
Well, thank you, Dru, for being so generous to our audience. It's funny because the transmissions that come through us, through Julius, are very in alignment with what you're speaking. A little bit different dialect, but I know all of those transmissions hold such similarity because they are here to assist everybody in who resonates with you, who aligns with you. Dru is spectacular and extraordinary. Of course, you've gotten a sense of his extreme intelligent and wise mind, as well as his spiritual and ethereal side of knowing, which is very appealing for many, many of you. He's also a little bit on the warm and cuddly side. I'm allowed to say that, right? I can say that. I have him over.
Yeah, I'm a Cancer sun, so.
You're so appealing to me because my son's a Cancer. But anyway, and you know, Dru, I want to say one more thing too. For people who live in the past and the future, they never see any new possibilities. They're just regurgitating what they believe is the only way that something can occur. There are infinite ways for any thought to transpire itself and demonstrate itself. Infinite ways, and that's a tough one for humans because we all have a tendency to agree that certain thoughts have limited ways in how they can present themselves. We're learning and discovering that has been a limitation. It's not been wrong, it's been a limitation. What also is really great is I think another consistent, agreeable point is after this quarantine, I think people are going to be in more appreciation of each other, more appreciation of the company of each other, more appreciation of the services out there. the appreciation, of course, of just getting outside in nature and reconnecting to so many things. So if you're going to do creative projects, I think they're going to be far more accepted after this, because people are in gratitude and appreciation after this. They're going to be curious to see what you have been doing. They're going to be excited to show you what they have been doing. And so, like Dru said, let's go into our inner child, where we're all so excited to come out on the playground at recess and see what everybody's been doing and touch each other in warm and enchanting, magical ways of joy. We here at Xpnsion Network are wanting to touch you in those ways, and we want you to connect with Dru. Dru, tell everybody one more time, please, your website.
The website is drutheguru.com. Email hello@drutheguru.com, and social media @drutheguru.
Thanks everybody so much for being with us for another episode of COVID-19, the opportunities you didn't think of. We are sending you wellness and kindness and love and honor in every way possible. Please continue to watch this program and all the other programs that are platformed on Xpnsion Network, and we'll be back with you soon with another guest to keep you smiling. Thanks everyone.